Well, I want to first thank you for all being here tonight. I know this isn't a traditional Friday night for most of us. Not sure what you would be doing otherwise, but I am sure glad I'm here tonight. I hope you are as well. Thanks to Tati for helping organize some of this as well. And if you don't know Tati, she is a true prayer warrior. Helps lead our prayer meeting, which is the first Monday of most months. This month we're doing this instead. So thank you to you, Tati. Before I jump in, I did want to give just a quick update, and you'll be the first to hear it, on our year-end giving campaign. We had a goal set for ourselves of $30,000, and as of yesterday, we had raised $41,692. So, yeah, that is incredible. And I think it's a true testament to the sacrificial generosity of so many of you who are in this room and who belong to this church. Now, we had budgeted $25,000 of our normal giving for year-end giving, so we exceeded that by almost a little more than $16,000, and that will help us cut into our current deficit and all those good things. And our leadership team this coming Tuesday will be talking about how we plan to allocate some of those monies to our Mexico missions trips, which we had promised a portion of every dollar will be going to that. We'll be thinking, I think, and this is just, they don't know this, but we're thinking a little bit about the fires and the catastrophe that's happening in LA. If you don't know, we partner with Convoy of Hope, and they are already there helping. And so we may discuss how we might be able to be part of that as well. And now, all that being said, I want to be clear, we're still in a deficit. You may know that if you follow our budgetary line items. You can follow that, by the way, if you don't get the newsletter. We post that stuff every week. And but because of what's happened in December and towards the end of the year, we are in a much better spot going into the coming year. And your continued financial support is vital to the work of Genesis. And so I don't want to get too deep into that right now, but I did want to just say thank you as your pastor for participating in that, continuing to be generous, helping fund the incredible mission here at Genesis. Well, tonight, I want to share my heart with you. I want you to hear every word that I say tonight comes straight from my heart. And I'm going to get a little technical, and we're going to talk about some things that we have some goals for this coming year and all of that. But before I say anything, I just want you to understand that this is coming from a deep, restless place in my heart to see the kingdom of God become a reality on earth as it is in heaven through the local church we call Genesis. This is at the core, not just of what I do, but genuinely who I am as a pastor, but more importantly, as a follower of Jesus. This is my heart to you tonight. Now, in May, it'll actually be 8 years since I became the lead pastor here at Genesis Church. Yeah, a lot's changed since then. My kids are now off in college. They were barely in middle school at the time. Our staff, other than me, is a completely different set of people. We live stream every week. Didn't even have a camera when I got here. Our building is filled with renters. That was not true when I got here. We've done a number of upgrades to our auditorium, to our kids' rooms, to some of the adjacent rooms. Our kids' ministry, like I said, has expanded into another room. We'll talk about this later. Our youth ministry, AMP, has doubled in size. We somehow made it through a global pandemic together. The list really goes on at all of the ways that things have changed since I've gotten here. And as I look back on a lot of that, I can see the handiwork of God in it. I can see how God was moving in that. Now, in the moment, like when we were in a global pandemic, it was a little difficult, right? To go, oh, there's God. But looking back, I can see even now the way in which he was transforming us as a community into the people he would want to be. But here's the one thing that hasn't changed in the last 8 years, and that is our desire to become a community of changed lives, changing lives. That is at the core of who we are. And I have had the front row seat and the privilege of having a front row seat to see so much of that actually come into reality. I mean, I'll bet if you think back 4, 5, 8 years, if you've been here this long, you can see the ways in which God has continued to change you and this church and the impact that it's had on those around you. And I can still remember sitting in a conference room with the then leadership team. This was, months into my tenure here at Genesis. And I remember reading to them Colossians chapter 1, verse 6. And it really has become, I think, the scriptural fuel for our vision and our mission as a church. Colossians 1:6 says, "This same good news that came to you is going out all over the world. You can't stop it. It came to you, and it's still going out. It's bearing fruit everywhere." Now listen, by changing lives, just as it changed your lives. From the day you first heard and understood the truth about God's wonderful grace. That phrase that we throw around here, change life, change life, we didn't just come up with it. It's like right here. It's in the scriptures. This is what God's word says, that the Spirit of God, the gospel of Jesus Christ is going out. You can't stop it. You can't get in its way. And it is changing lives just like it changed yours. And because of that, since that's true, then that's who we want to be. We want to be a people that are joining with God in this outpouring of the Spirit, right? The outgoing of the gospel that isn't going to be. We want to join with Him to see other people's lives change because our lives have been changed as well. Amen? That's who we are. And that has not changed in the last 8 years. We want Colossians 1:6 to be true of us in the same way that it was true of the first church in the first century. However, during the last 6 months, the staff and I have begun to feel like there's something of a gap between who we want to be and why we actually want to be that. Now, in fact, just recently, God revealed something to us that we didn't really expect. And I'll be honest with you, this is our jobs, this is what we do, we think about this all the time. It's almost a little like, shoot, we should have thought of this a long time ago, right? With everything, what you do has to actually be fueled by a good reason as to why you're doing it. Otherwise, what happens? You stop doing it, right? Right? Going to the gym, like I go to the gym across the street here at Vasa. Going to the gym, that's what I do. But being a healthy person is why I do it. Reading your Bible in the morning is what you do, but having an intimate relationship with God is why you do it. Serving your spouse in practical ways is something you do, but having a healthy marriage is why you do it. You with me? You see the gap between those two? If you don't have one with the other, they suffer a little. Becoming a thriving community of changing lives is what we do. It's who we are. It's who we want to become even in the future. It's our God-given mission. But we started asking the question, why do we do this in the first place? Why would we do that? What is our motivation behind all of it? Now I realize I'm in a room with friends, devoted followers of Jesus. Many of you went to Sunday school. And when the Sunday school teacher asks the question, what is the answer? Jesus. Get a gold star, go home, tell your mom, right? And I know we all want to say that. And look, I'm not going to argue with that, right? Jesus really is our why, okay? He is our why. But as we sort of unpacked more specifically and uniquely what our why is as a church, we uncovered something that we were quite surprised by. After some deliberation and a lot of prayer, it started to become clear to me and then eventually our staff what our why really is. And you know what we found out? Some of you wear it around on your t-shirts. We had no idea. Anybody want to guess what our why is? Thank you, Zach. Change is possible. We want to become a community of changed lives, changing lives. Why? Because we strongly, deeply, fervently believe that change is possible in the person of Jesus. We made a giant sticker, if you've been in room 1, and we put it on the wall. We didn't even know what we were doing. And I was standing in that room and I was like, that's why we do this. That's why we do this. We do everything because we believe change is possible in a person's life. You are here tonight because you've experienced the possibility of change that exists in Jesus Christ. It's our why. Why do we want to become a community of changed lives, changing lives? Because we believe change is possible in the person and the work of Jesus. You come to church and you join a group and you serve and you tell your friends about Jesus because you believe change is possible in a person's life. It's the why behind everything we do here. It's why I show up every day and I sit down and I pour my blood, sweat, and tears over the scriptures to preach a sermon. It's why Justin and the team get up here and they work fervently to learn the music and lead us in worship. It's why Tati takes time out of her week or month to spend time praying, because we believe that change is truly possible when a person places their faith in Jesus Christ, and not just for the present, but for the future as well. Now, if you were here on Christmas Eve, you may have seen an example of that. My good friend Thomas shared his story. And it's funny, as we were interviewing him, I didn't say any of this to him, I promise, I didn't. But at one point he said, I found out that change is possible. I thought, isn't that interesting? That the why of who we are is already in the hearts and the mouths of those who've experienced it here. It's so unique. Now, we haven't yet put it up on the website if you missed it or whatever, but we'll put it out there if you haven't seen it yet. It's worth your time to look at. And as I look back on the last 8 years, I can see how our why has continued to drive everything we do. It drives our passion for the next generation. It drives our desire to be involved with Northtown and Agua de Vida and Convoy of Hope. It drives our passion for groups and first serves and worship on Sundays. It fuels our desire to see more people baptized and become followers of Jesus, because we believe that change is possible. It's the same why that I believe will drive our passion through what God has for us in 2025 as well. Now, I'll tell you a little background, and some of you may know this if you've been around a little while and you've been listening. Back in August of 2023, the staff and the leadership team at the time met with this organization called Growmentum. It's led by a good friend of mine, and they came in on a weekend and they spent 2 days with us. And they basically helped us evaluate where we were, where we've been, where we want to go as a church, what God was speaking to us. I love it. Their sort of mantra, their tagline is led by the Spirit and aware of the strategy. And that's who we want to be. We want to be led by the Spirit, but we don't just want to sit on our hands. We want to go after and join with God with what He is doing in the world. And so they really helped us come together, find alignment on some of these things. And this was a little over a year ago. And I'll tell you this was a shift for all of us. You know, most of the time in the church, and I'll be honest, we're sort of very reactive to everything. Things come our way, and we just are like, oh, we better do this, or oh, we better do that. But this is a very proactive, going after, looking ahead, seeing what God, who do you want us to become? We believe change is possible. We believe you want us to become this changed life, community of changed lives, changing lives. What does that look like, and how can we partner with you to ensure that we are being faithful to that? And during that time together, we actually came up with a 10-year vision, which is very vague, I'll be honest. We came up with a three-year vision. We came up with a 1-year vision, and then quarterly, we actually sit down and we come up with what do we want to see accomplished in the next quarter. And I don't want to bore you with all the details because it gets kind of intricate. And I'll say this, after about a year and a few months, I think we're finally starting to get the hang of it. It's taken us that long, and we were told that it would. But during that initial meeting, we established this 3-year vision. So that would have been, late 2024 or early 2024. that this started the ball started getting rolling. And it was a 3-year vision of where we wanted to be when it was the end of 2026. And I'll be honest with you, it's audacious. I sometimes look at this and I'm like, who came up with this stuff, But then again, I can't think of anything that shouldn't be more audacious than the things of God that he wants to accomplish in and through us. And I'll say this, I know, and the leadership team and the staff who were there know, look, this wasn't our idea. These were things that we prayed on, and we sat, and we talked about, and we listened to God, and we deliberated over for hours. And it included dozens of bullet points and ideas and to kind of guide our decision-making over the coming years. And here were just some of the things that came out of that as we look into 3 years, and now it would be 2 years from now, a little more than 2 years from now. We've decided, in 3 years' time, by 2026, we want to be self-sustaining financially. Some of you may or may not know this, but we actually are sort of subsidized in some of our income. The Rock, our great partners down the hall, they actually sublease from us, and that subsidy comes and it helps us. We want them to be able to use that space, but we don't want to be dependent on that. We want to be financially secure and self-sufficient in that, and we've got a ways to go in that. But by 2026, we want to be there. We want to be a church of generosity that we can say, look, we can cover our bills so we can fund the ministry that God wants to do from us. We want this room to be full. I counted, there are 232 chairs in here right now. And by 2026, we want every single one of those chairs filled. That's audacious. That's about twice the size that we are right now, give or take. That's audacious, but that's God-given. We didn't just pull that number out of a hat. It was Spirit-led. We want to see 75% of our average weekly attendance in a group. And we're still working on some of the numbers of this, and we're getting there. Again, it's a process. But that's what we want to see. Of the attendance we have on the weekend, we want 75% of those people in a group. We want to baptize 75 people by 2026. We want new people coming to faith. We want to see more changed lives. We want our student ministry to be filled with 100 kids in this room. We want them mentored and discipled for the next phase of life. And we want to see our kids ministry hang with us as we grow and double in size as well. See their rooms revitalized for future ministry. These are just some of the things that we're going after. And I'll just say it again, they're audacious. These are big dreams. These are God-given dreams. These are not, hey, we can pull up our bootstraps and go do it kind of dreams. These are, we need to be on our knees praying for God's mercy and for God's intercession to do the work that he can only do and join with him in it. They're a little crazy. But we believe in our praying that the Spirit's work in the rooms, we have discussed those things. We weren't just making things up, but we were guided by him and we were trusting that. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is going to take courage and sacrifice and faith for any of those benchmarks to be reached. And I can honestly tell you right now that we are making strides. Last year we baptized 11 people, which is the highest that we've seen in 5 years. Our giving has increased nearly 60,000 since 2019. We have a total of 9 groups, 5 more than we had in 2022. And our student ministry is more than doubled than what it was 4 years ago. Yeah, you can clap for that. Those are good things. So we're moving in that direction. I often say, we may not be where we want to be, but we're certainly not where we once were. And we can see how God is moving in that. We're on the right trajectory, if you will. Which is why this past week, our staff and our leadership team, and I just want to take a second to recognize our leadership team that's here. So if they didn't know I was going to do this, but too bad. You're a leader. Get over it. So if you're one of our LT members, would you stand up, okay, so people can see you? All right, yeah. We're missing one. So Jake Weld is over here in the corner. Jane Jacobson, who's been here since before time, I don't know. At Genesis, that is. Tammy Hightower, Dan Martin, and then our chairman, Mike Gustafson, too. Jeff Petruski is not here this evening. But they help guide and lead so much of what we do. They are more than just a sounding board to me. They are really the sort of this like hidden engine behind so much of what we do. And last week, the staff and the six of us got together and we looked ahead to the next year. And we said, we did all this work about a year ago and we want to keep moving in that direction. We want to keep partnering with God and what he wants to do in and through us. And so let's start to dream. Let's start to talk. Let's start to pray about what's next for us. And out of that came 5 things that we believe if we could partner with God in doing this and pray into these things and work diligently and be faithful in them, we would begin to move towards where God would have us go next in the coming years. And so I'm going to share those 5 things with you tonight. Now, I will say this, some of them are a little technical, and that's intentional. We don't want these to be things that are like they're hard to grab hold of. You know what I mean? Like, we set goals, right? We're like, I want to lose weight. It's not specific enough, right? I want to lose 20 pounds by March. That would be specific enough. So there might be a little bit that. We're still sort of working on some of that as well. But I want you to hear in this as well as I share these things to you, the why behind all of it. Why are we doing any of this? Because change is possible. And we are going to work hard. And we're going to be sacrificial. And we're going to be courageous to see God do what only he can do. So, the first thing that we came up with, and by the way, these are in no particular order. It's not like we went, this is the most important thing. They're just things that we feel like, man, these are benchmarks, these are targets that we have for the coming years. So the first thing we want to really lean into this year is we want to develop and activate a clear path of discipleship. So we have had discipleship methods at this church since I got here, all sorts of them. And we want to make it really clear to everyone who comes to Genesis. If you come to Genesis and you want to pursue a relationship with Jesus and you want to grow in your faith and you want to mature and you want to become more sacrificial and more purposeful in your life, that we have a clear path for you to do that. Now, Pastor DJ came on board with us full time back in October, which has been amazing. And one of his responsibilities is in this area. And so he and I have been having conversations with a lot of people in our church, some of our group leaders, some of our leadership team leaders, and each other about what some of the adjustments we want to make in the coming year so that it is a clear path for people to not just onboard into discipleship, but to keep going as they, live their faith out here at this church. And so in the coming months, I promise you, a clear path of discipleship will come into focus. It's already starting to do that, and we're excited to share those details with you when they're really clear to us as well. And the intent is for us to launch pieces of it in the later months of this year. So it's going to take us a little time to kind of get all the pieces together, and then we want to start to make and activate those things in the later summer and into the early months of the fall as well. The second thing that we're aiming for is measurable movement towards financial self-sufficiency by covering our monthly budgetary needs without a deficit. It's a mouthful, I get it. Here's what we want. We want to make sure we have enough money. I'm just going to put it out flat out. It is no fun being in a deficit because when we're in a deficit, we're fortunate in that we own this building and we have funds from other places, but that's not who we want to be. Remember, we want to be self-sufficient in this. We want to be fully funded by the members and givers and regular attenders of our church. And so we want to see continued measurable movement towards that in the coming year. And the number one way that we can do that this year is by covering our monthly budgetary needs. Now, last year, we increased our budget a little bit, but not a ton, but we haven't been able to keep up with it. And we've got to fix that. We've got to adjust that. And we're getting some data in to figure out what maybe we can do. One simple way that you can do this, and if you're not doing it yet, is set up recurring giving online. If you give occasionally or sporadically, can I highly encourage you to go online this week and set up a recurring gift? weekly, monthly, but it helps us so much to know and be able to rely on, oh, those funds are going to be coming in. And so you could participate in that. You could be a part of that in helping us do that. And our goal is to keep everybody abreast of what's going on as we're moving towards that. Thirdly, and this is kind of a new shift, 100% of our members attend at least 2 of our 4 quarterly member meetings. Now, members, you're probably like, I've never heard of a quarterly member meeting, and that's because we've never had one. So, but we're going to start. One of our goals is to really invest in those of you who have said, I'm invested here. And so we are going to be having a quarterly meeting, and our expectation of you is that you will attend at least 2 of the 4 in the coming year. Now, we want you to be at all 4, but we hope you will be able to make at least 2 of the 4 meetings. And in that time, it's going to be a variety of things, but we're going to kind of come back to some of this. We're going to say, hey, here's where we are with things. We're going to look at some of the business side of things. We're going to probably pray together. We're going to, they're going to be a variety of things. But the first one, if you want to put it down, is going to be February 23rd. So it's about a month from now. We're going to have our first one. So if you want to do that, we'll just have it right after church. I'm sure, knowing this church, there will be food and all that kind of good stuff as well. Fourthly, we need to double our Genesis Kids volunteers and revitalize our current rooms for them. In the fall, here's what happened. Our children's ministry exploded. One Sunday we had like 35 kids. But you know what happened? We actually went right back down to a normal number of kids because we don't have enough volunteers. In any organization, leadership drives growth. And if you don't have the people to be able to lead, say in this case, the kids in those rooms, you'll go right back to where you were. Now, we're not disheartened by that. We're not discouraged by that. But we have a goal. We want to double that number, which we want to go from, I think it's about 12 or 13 volunteers to about 24 or 25 volunteers in the next year. We also want to revitalize the rooms. We just opened a new room. We want to be able to make that room a special place, especially for our older elementary kids. And so Pastor DJ and Jessica have been working together. We think it's going to cost about $1,500 to make that room new. If you'd like to give to that, go for it. We would love that. That would be amazing. If not, that's fine as well. But we want to do that eventually with all of the rooms there. They are in sore need of some updates and upgrades and just age-appropriate sort of environments for our kids. And then last but not least, by this time next year, we want to see around 60 AMP students in this room on a Wednesday night. Now listen. Oh, I should have mentioned, and have a plan in place to actually split on middle schoolers and high schoolers. At that point, you have to. And we want to get to that place. Our student ministry is one of the most vibrant ministries we have in this church right now. And those of you who are here on a Wednesday night, you see it for yourself. Here's why we can do that. We have the volunteers. We have the leaders to do it. And we have the support behind this church to see it happen. It's an audacious goal, but there's no reason we can't just about double our size in our student ministry here with everything going on. Now, I realize your head might be spinning a little from all of this. You're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot. That's normal. Mine does as well. But I promise you, one of my goals is to keep you informed and with the help of our staff and our leadership team and other leaders, give you practical ways that you could be praying for and participating in what God is doing in our midst. And so tonight, I just want to give you 3 ways. And by the way, we're gonna send some of that information out so it's in front of you. I'm not sure how we're gonna do that yet, but we'll get it out to you and you'll be able to look at it again. But there's a few things that you can do right now to begin to participate and join with us as a leadership team and staff in being able to do what God has for us in the future. And the first one, anybody want to guess what it is? Pray, of course. Yeah, I know. It's obvious. You can say it out loud. You know what it is. And I know, right? Oh, yeah, of course, the pastor's going to want you to be able to play. But we do believe in the power of prayer. We believe that it has the possibility to move things and change things. And so maybe pick 1 or 2 of these things and just commit to praying for them daily. Or pray for all of them daily. Pray for the spiritual and physical health of our staff and leaders. Pray for our community and the people who are still searching within it. Pray for one person in your life that you would desperately love to see come to Christ in the next year. Just pray and don't stop praying. The second thing you can do is participate. There are going to be more opportunities to join in, to serve, to come alongside of in the coming year than ever before. Which means no one who calls Genesis home is going to be able to just sit on the sidelines and watch. If you aren't serving or you want to take a step in serving, we want you. We need you. In particular, we're looking for some kids volunteers. And even in this month, we want to add 5 new volunteers to our kids' rooms so that it's well-staffed, so that our kids have a great experience back there, and they learn about the person of Jesus, and they learn as well through your life that change is possible in theirs as well. I want you to participate by attending and serving and inviting others and giving. I mean, the health and well-being of our church is in the hands of all of us. And I'm inviting you to participate. And then lastly, give. And I know, I don't want to beat this drum so much, but I'm telling you right now, I have found in my own personal life, there are a few things that I find more joy in than being generous to the church. I can't explain that. Knowing the person that I am, I would expect that I would rather hold on to my money than give it away. But I have found great joy in doing that. And I want you to be generous with what you have, not just for the benefit of the church, although that's important, but for your own benefits, that you would experience the joy of generosity in your life as well. It is a critical way that you can participate with what God is doing here at Genesis. Now, I realize you may have a lot of questions, and I want you to ask them, and I want to answer them, and our leadership team, I'm sure they'd be happy to do that, but we can't do that in this forum right now. So I want you to know you can email me. Here's my email address. Put it up there. There's my email address. The second one, you might want to email them first. That's LT@Genesis. No, I'm just kidding. You can email me, or you can email leadership team. We will be happy to respond to that. We'll grab coffee with you, talk with you, hear about how you want to participate, questions you might have. We want to be here for you. And I don't know about you, but man, I am excited about the coming year. I am excited. I strongly believe that our church is poised to do some incredible things in the coming year. And I can say with all of my heart, and remember, this is my heart. You want to know what I'm about? This is what I'm about. This is who I am. And I can say with all of my heart how glad I am to be doing it with you. I am grateful to be thank you, Renee, yeah. I am grateful, and I mean it, and I feel privileged to be your pastor. And I will do everything in my power to lead with integrity and passion and the Spirit's leading, because I believe that change is possible in your life, in my life, and in the lives of the thousands of people who live around this building.